this wonderful live here. We're going to be discussing Trump's indictments for today. And there's a lot of them, right? Quite a few out there. But we're going to try to break down some of them. And Mother of Dragons is a special guest once again for this episode. We like to have Mother of Dragons here on the Vega Access platform. She's a good friend of the platform. So please tap this live and share it with at least one friend so that we can have more people joining the conversation. Let me see if I can bring MOD here to the live with us. She'll be joining shortly so we can discuss. The last time we did Trump's indictments, I believe, might have been, well, we tried to do the live stream at some point, I think last week. Was it last week? It might have been last week, yes. Yes, I think it was last Thursday or Wednesday, but I was using the studio version, and unfortunately, TikTok ran an update that completely destroyed the studio version, if you will. It's been difficult to use it ever since, so I'm going back to the phone version for TikTok Live. By the way, this will also be shown on my YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Vega Access as well. It won't be live on YouTube, but it will be the full version of this live will be posted for the YouTube audience as well. So if you do want to check the replay out of this episode or any episode, feel free to go to my YouTube channel at Vega Access as well. Anyway, I want to welcome Mother of Dragons. Hello there. How are you?
Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Okay, hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead. I was able to hear her, but not sure what's going on. Anyway, guys, Mother of Dragons is back. Trump's indictments. And that being said, let's get started. Okay, guys, make sure to please tab the live. Tab the live. Mother of Dragons is here once again. Let's see if this will work.
There it is. All right.
You can hear me now?
Yes, and I'm back on my main account.
Nice. When was your official return date?
So I got unbanned on Monday, but then they tried to get me again today, and
Again today?
yes, it's crazy.
How?
It was insane. So we were literally sitting there talking about the Iowa caucus. And again, this was just like us just sitting there kind of shooting the shit, just not really doing anything. Some lady comes in there completely unhinged, screaming about why there's 2.1 million people, but only 110,000 voted. I'm just like, lady, do you understand how a delegate works? She got all in her feelings. I kicked her out. Then she reported me. Like three different. She had to have.
And when she reported you, what was the claim?
It was sexual exploitation and bullying and harassment because I told her she didn't understand what a caucus was. I was just like, wow. So I couldn't believe it. I was just like,
You're in a row.
man,
I'm telling you.
I think I think from here on out, I'm gonna reserve my main account for like these types of lives because
Right.
and then just on any other live, I'm gonna go on my other backup account because I'm just
Wait.
like, this is just not real life.
This is insane. MOD, you're like the most wanted conservative on TikTok.
Yeah, in a good way and bad way.
For exercising your freedom of speech.
Right.
And actually fact checking these liberals.
Right.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So actually, let's talk a little bit about this. It's trending right now, the Iowa caucus, and then we can jump into the Trump indictments topic. So what's going on there? Tell me. I mean, I know, but just for everyone that's joining, maybe they don't know.
Yeah. So, all right. So um just to without going into like the whole what is a caucus and what a primaries. So some states do a caucus, and that's where there's a preset number of delegates, and these delegates are chosen by the party to cast a vote. So in the same way the electoral college works, it's very, very similar. And these are party people who have lifelong Democrats or whatever the case may be. So I was a delegate one year. I've been a lifelong Republican. So I was a delegate one year. So actually for Trump, I was a delegate for Trump back in 2016. So
Really?
yeah. So
Wow.
yep.
But this
And
was in your state.
yep. And so for the primaries, I cast my ballot, and he, ended up being the party nominee and all of that. So I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. It's your party chooses you pretty much. Or in some states, you can actually sign up to become a delegate or whatever.
So how is that process like to become a delegate? You just fill out an application or?
Yeah, so it depends on the state. And uh, so basically you go with your party, and it's you go through um they're pretty much chosen by the convention, right? And then so you have the delegates, and then you have alternates to the national conventions of the different parties. And then so the major political parties choose by direct vote, the electors, right? And then the candidates for the delegate and then the alternate, they have to be qualified and all of that. And so any person that's seeking to be elected as a delegate or alternate to the convention of the political party, they have to file a declaration of candidacy and a certificate in writing signed by the person, in which that person basically states their first and second choices for the nomination or the candidacy for the presidency of the United States. So it's basically it's basically by your party. So your party either chooses you, or your party may ask you to become a delegate. So sometimes people get those. Um, sometimes people will get something like from their um convention or whatever, and you sign up, and then they just say, hey, they may send you like a text message like, hey, you want to be a delegate or whatever, and you go like, yeah, okay, sure. It's not that
Got it.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah. But so as a delegate, you do once you get to that point, you give him your vote. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so pretty much you cast your ballot for, or you choose which nominee that you're going to basically say, hey, this is going to be the nominee. So you have, Trump, Haley, DeSantis, Ramaswamy, and you just say, hey, so you don't necessarily, you're voting for the party, right? You're not voting so you're a party member, and then you're choosing who you want to be the nominee, and you pick either, okay, so 20 delegates may choose DeSantis, to 15 may choose Haley, or whatever the case may be. So they have the select number of people that actually go and do this. It's not the entire state that goes out like they do in the general election.
Got it. Okay. And how did that feel, by the way, casting your ballot for President Trump at the time,
Oh,
candidate
it was
Trump?
great. And then so remember the first time we kind of talked about it, I wasn't really sure, but I mean, once him and Hillary started having debates like right around the summertime, and I wasn't sure whether or not, I was completely sold whether I was going to vote for him in the general election. But as far as to be a delegate for the party, I was absolutely sure that he should have been a delegate. I mean, he had just completely wiped everybody else out. So I felt like I was doing my part as a citizen. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I
And you
was like,
did.
yeah, I think we chose the
You
best
sure
person to
did.
get that. So absolutely.
I think, by the way, Erica, Texas, I think she's here. She is my new mod, by the way.
Oh,
Erica,
sweet.
if you get a chance, if you can pin any comments that you find interesting, even if it's from opposing views, that's okay. We don't want to silence the left. We don't want to be like the way they are. As long as it's appropriate and it's not like any racist comments or anything like that, that'd be great. MOD, real quick. So, username SunGirl7184 said,
Mhm.
how many people do you know who have 91 charges and aren't in jail? That was a question.
Oh, there's plenty of people that have 91 charges and they're not in jail. I mean, there's people with laundry lists of backgrounds, felonies, misdemeanors of the alike. I mean, people would be surprised because this is not normal everyday things that people think about. It was like, oh, I wonder how many people have 91 charges. One of the we could point to another person in history where the reason why we even have a RICO charge is based off of John Gotti. John Gotti had just about as many charges against him that Donald J. Trump has had, and he was able to beat most of his cases before they actually got him on a RICO. And then they got him on murder charges and some of the other things. But John Gotti, I mean, he was the original Teflon Don. That's where this phrase comes from, Teflon Don, because he was able to, they weren't able to get him at all. Now, I mean, one could say that, oh, John Gotti was a mobster. Well, some say he was a very, very good businessman, and he was very good at convincing people to bend to his will. So, they could also, I mean, he's the, stuff of legends. Oh, John Gotti did this and unalive this person. Rumors start flying and things like that. But more importantly, when you look at all of the charges, you're looking at so the 91 charges represents a span of four indictments. So we do also have to remember that most of the charges that Trump has actually comes from the Mar-a-Lago case, where he's being charged one count for each individual document that was found.
And there were quite a few, well, quite a bit
Correct.
of documents, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So just to a little bit go back to that question again. I think what she means is in the sense of it sounds as if she's already or she believes that he may be guilty already by having all these charges. The way she asked that question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
So it's like I'm saying it's like typical of what the mainstream media is doing. Like, oh, how can you vote for someone that's been indicted? How is that possible? So it's like once again he is already guilty by the court of public opinion without having a proper trial that's been completed. So what's your take on that Democrats and those followers, they're like flabbergasted that you would support Trump even though he's been indicted?
oh, I gotcha. Yeah, she said she loves Trump. I gotcha.
Oh,
So
she does love Trump.
yeah, so it's a great
Okay.
question. This is the second person from the right that's actually asked this, and it's a great question. How can we vote for someone with 91 charges? It's very, very easy. In this country, we have a constitution, and that constitution lays out the rights that we have given ourselves as a freedom of people. I mean, I'm sorry, a freedom of the people that we particularly understand that all of the rights that we've laid out, um, one of those rights being able to vote for the representatives uh, in Congress. We also vote for our president of the United States. And under Article 2, it gives us what the president of the United States and the qualifications that he or she must possess in order to become president of the United States. And one of them is not, you cannot be a convicted felon. In this country, and we are not a banana republic, if we have someone who is let's just say hypothetically, it's not Donald Trump. Let's just say it is someone that has been convicted of a felony in the past. They've changed their life around and they have just become, a champion in the eyes of the people. Who is to say, and what governing body should stop that person from being able to run, number one, and number two, stop the people from choosing who they want to represent them, whether that be a person with a criminal past or not, or a criminal present. If the will of the people is to have someone to represent them, regardless of their past history, regardless of what may have been accused of, then that is the right and the will of the people, and that shall not be infringed upon. And unfortunately, right now, I think that people are starting to kind of question, well, how far are we going to go with this? Because certainly we can't have a convicted felon as the president of the United States. And I said, well, why not? My question is, why can't we? Where is it an established law that we prohibit people with a felony past from running from office? And unless there is individual statutes within a local or state a mandate, which there are some jurisdictions that do not allow you to run with a criminal past. Again, that is the will of the people. But as far as our Constitution and how it appears in Article 2, we have the right to vote for whomever we want. And if that includes Donald John Trump with his 91 charges, then I mean, damn, let us vote for the guy. We have the right to do so.
Absolutely. And thank you for clarifying that, by the way. The way the question was asked, it looked as if she was a Democrat or he.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, real quick, before we jump into the documents, that I know last time we got interrupted because of the studio version. By the way, how do you like this new layout? This is the phone version. I have to go back to the phone version.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So
I had no other choice.
oh man. Oh, it's good. It's still
Yeah.
good. I was
I'm trying to
wondering
make it
what
look
you did.
good, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the studio version is glitchy still. It's just, I'm staying away from it until they fix it. So back to
Gotcha.
the phone version.
Gotcha.
So Iowa caucuses, tell me about it. What's your take on that? I mean,
All right.
he just destroyed the field.
So what's really interesting to note about this is that Donald Trump, in the 2016 primary election, he actually didn't win the primary election, right? And the map, I think he only got like I think he got a very, very low margin of counties that actually went with him in 2016. Now, compared to the 2024 map, I mean, it's a world of a difference. He won 99% of the state of Iowa. And check this, one county went to all Nikki Haley. Now, ask me how that happened. Uh, and I'll tell you.
How? How?
So Nikki Haley's chief strategist is a former Obama era campaign manager, right? And so his strategy is that if he could get people to flip their vote, which the state of Iowa allows for people to change their vote at the last minute, so they could the same day they can actually change their vote. They have the ability to do that. They can say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go to this person." So originally, this person was slated to have Donald Trump, and she was able to flip the county by one vote. So that little dot on the map of the Iowa map is actually Nikki Haley, and the sea of red around her is Donald Trump. So he would have had 100% of all counties, the delegates in every single county voting for him to be the nominee. And for that one single solitary person, had it not been for that one person, he would have gotten that the entire state.
What do you think that means? By the way, I'm looking at the map and I see what you're saying, but what do you think that means for what's to come here in this election year?
It proves this entire time. So one thing it does is that number one, it proves that Nikki Haley is a rhino. She's a Republican in name only. She's not to be trusted. And this is just moving forward. Hopefully, should just show people that she's not committed to doing anything that's going to help the American people. She's only in it for herself. And so hopefully moving forward, if anybody had their in mind that Nikki Haley should be the Republican nominee, obviously she didn't secure enough votes. I mean, she was doing some pretty shady shit. So obviously she's not the one. What does this mean for the future? We have the New Hampshire primary, the New Hampshire caucus next, so the New Hampshire primaries. That is supposed to be taking place January 23rd through September 10th of this year. So there's 6 events for that. And what should we expect this year is we have Vivek Ramaswamy dropping out. So what we need to focus on is Trump and what that New Hampshire primary is actually going to look like for him. And if he won in such a, I mean, this is historic. There's never been any other presidential candidate that has ever done that before. So he absolutely made history tonight or last night. And then what should we see in New Hampshire? I'm going to think that we're going to see the exact same thing. New Hampshire voted to take Joe Biden off of the ballot. He is not on the ballot in New Hampshire. Okay. So,
I mean, what's
yeah.
to come here is going to be shocking for the left.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm shocked, and I don't think you're shocked either.
No, not at all.
Because we hear directly from the people and we see what's happening throughout the country, but the mainstream media is out of touch, maybe on purpose, but I don't think it's surprising. But like you said, I mean, this is going to be really fun to watch.
Oh,
I mean, by the way, did you see Rachel Maddow's reaction?
I heard about it, and I don't exactly remember. You might have to.
Yeah, so when she was going to announce, when it was official that Trump was projected the winner, I mean, the way she had to report it, but the way she said it, it was just, she didn't even want to look at the camera. She had a panel, and she was like, Trump has been projected winner of the Iowa caucuses. She couldn't even say it.
Why is
It's
it?
like, what is wrong with these people?
And you know what the funny thing about this is that the Democrats didn't want an Iowa caucus. They didn't want one. So what are they upset about? There is no Iowa caucus.
They're upset because it's like they just don't want him at all. They would rather anyone on the Republican Party but him.
Yeah.
And the fact that all of these indictments, all of these, personal attacks and attacks to his track record, that's been pretty good anyway. But they just try to focus on these indictments, like we said, and tarnish his image in the public view. And the fact that the more they push against him, the more people are for him. They just don't get it. They don't get it.
It's unbelievable. They need to blame the DNC for this. And the reason why they're not having a caucus is because of the DNC. The DNC is running around this country, running roughshod over their own people. And then it's going to be a circus in New Hampshire. This is the first time that we'll see a fight over the primaries. This is kind of a first in nation where there's a rift in the left between the states and the DNC officials, because the DNC is screwing their own people over. And they basically took him off the ballot. They said pretty much it's not going to happen. He's not going to be on the ballot. Joe Biden is not going to be on the ballot. And they're asking, they've been asking Joe Biden, the Democrat Party has been asking Joe Biden to rearrange his primary calendar and move forward states that better reflect the U.S. demographics. And so they demoted. And back in February, they actually demoted rural, largely white New Hampshire second to second on the primary calendar behind South Carolina, despite the state's objection. So pretty much the DNC is screwing them over, and he's moving the primary from New Hampshire to South Carolina. He pretty much just handed New Hampshire to Donald Trump. So we'll see him win in New Hampshire too. They're putting in South Carolina, where he polled pretty high. But if you look at his polling numbers right now, he's like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's like, once again, it's like a signal of what's to come. And it's going to be pretty sad to watch the left completely just fall for their own narrative. They're going to be a victim to their own narrative once again. Because back in 2016, the narrative was that he's a racist, he's a bigot, blah, 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 blah. But now the narrative is that he's a criminal.
Yep.
Okay. So now he changed because they know that the racist thing's not working. I mean, the black community, it's supporting Trump more than before, and same for the Latino community. So that's not working for them. So they're going to the criminal stuff. By the way, MOD, do you know this Cuban Dan 3.0? Who is that? He's like the fake attorney MOD with a laughing emoji. What's that about?
A bunch of freaking haters.
He's like one of those.
Yeah, just one of those. I mean,
One of
it's just
those.
I mean, there's so many freaking troll accounts on here. I mean, these people never get in the box, never want to debate. They can't debate. I mean, I talked to
Yeah.
a guy last night that completely, I mean, sat here and told me that a deposition wasn't a sworn testimony. Like, come on. Like, can we just get real here for a second? Like,
Is he one of those keyword warriors?
yeah, definitely a keyboard warrior.
Keyboard warriors. Yeah. Okay, so then Iowa caucus. I mean, he just obviously completely destroyed the field, and it proves once again how out of touch the mainstream media is with the American people. But it would be interesting to see more of these results coming through in the next couple of months. Okay, so Emily, so let's get into the topic here, Trump's indictments.
Oh yes.
So talk to me about the Mar-a-Lago one, and let's try to, go directly to the point of it of all. I know there's a lot of documents, so what happened there?
All right. So I think when the way that we left off, and there's so much nuance with the Mar-Lago case, and I think where we kind of left off at is we were sort of discussing what sort of happened in the time frame between January of 2022 and February of 2022, and that's a very, very short time period to which we learned a lot. And what we learned is that back in 2021, the NARA sent an informal request by way of their counsel to Donald Trump's counsel, saying, "Hey, according to this manifest, we're still missing over 24 boxes. Could you return those? And while you're doing that, we're basically looking for presidential records because we also learned that NARA does not have the authority to push or to, sort of press or has no enforcement arm. And any sort of enforcement uh, would have to be a refer over to the OIG and then an OIG refer over to the DOJ and subsequently an FBI investigation. And that's what they said happened. And so when they got those 15 boxes back in January of 2022, so it took them quite a long time to kind of go through that. There's also some stuff out there where there were some NARA officials who were afraid that Donald Trump was not going to relinquish documents, which is absolutely insane. Part of which is very interesting because once they contacted the council and gave him almost a year essentially before they started any sort of criminal investigation. And the 15 boxes that came back, they got the documents that they specifically asked for, which is the letter from Kim Jong-un to, the letter from, Donald Trump to Kim Jong-un, and then the letter from Barack Obama to Donald Trump once he got in office, because NARA testified during a NARA briefing. It's called the 3123 NARA briefing. They testified that
But hold on, was it the
oh,
letter
go ahead.
from Trump to Kim or Kim to Trump?
It was Trump to Kim.
Trump to Kim. Okay.
Yes. So they said that they have no idea what sort of documents they're going to get back. They know that there's presidential records that do have to come back, and it's their job to catalog, sift through all of that, and get it to once they get his presidential library set up and all of those other things, just as any other past president has done. They also testified that they actually had to go back as of last year and contact previous administrations, including Donald Trump's, asking them to return classified documents because that had not been something that they had been done in the past. At least through the last few administrations. So what we did learn is that NARA has some processes and maybe some the interagency workings through the White House Office of Records Management, and NARA has shown some severe lack of oversight and possibly even some archaic processes to which things like this would happen. So that congressional inquiry was opened up, and Congress was like, "Hey, what happened here? What's going on, and how do we prevent this in the future?" And we found out that it was a huge mess, and NARA has been a mess for a very, very long time.
And we also talked last time that they don't really enforce, correct?
Yeah, so they have no legal authority to enforce
Right.
any of those things. And so what we did find is that once that request had come through, he had taken that time period, returned 15 boxes, and once those 15 boxes had been returned, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because they also testified that over 80 instances in previous administrations and obtaining records, they had to go back to try to get records from senators and things like that, to which we know that Joe Biden himself and Mike Pence had also been party to those to that sort of inquest, and that's why they were trying to get documents back. We did not learn about that until shortly after Trump's Mar-a-Lago was raided, and so remember, we didn't learn about this until when that came down in 2022. We didn't learn about this until the beginning of 2023, that they had found that these documents were missing. And the reason for that is because they actually had to go back and request to see if anybody else had classified documents. So they knew that this wasn't an unusual thing, but for some reason they treated Trump very, very differently. And the question, it begs the question of why and how that all got started. And I think I could probably try to fill that gap as best as I can.
For some reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some odd reason.
Correct.
So, what do you think that is?
So, so right at the beginning of 2022, when they returned these boxes back, they said that they had to look at these differently, right? And then so they testified in the congressional committee that they had sent a referral over to the OIG, which is the Office of Inspector General, and then the OIG referred it over to the DOJ. But the last time we spoke, we learned through an open FOIA request that it was actually the Biden administration through 44 USC that they did a special access request, which allows the president of the United States to request documents from NARA in the normal course of business. So it allows the president to do his day-to-day activities and things like that. What the
So again,
yeah.
was it a FOIA, correct?
So the FOIA request was done by American First Legal. And
Okay.
American First Legal obtained the email chain between the FBI and NARA, in which what we found out that what actually happened was is that the FBI knew about the boxes and wanted to use a special access request to view said documents. And so the Biden administration assisted the FBI with getting said documents. Now, had the question being is that if the Biden administration had never given that special access request, that we would have never saw the FBI getting involved in any of these documents. And that's the
Okay.
question:
So
is why
so
did the
then
FBI get
was
involved?
it the FOIA was the first one?
So the FOIA request, we just saw that last year. So that was opened up in October of last year, October, November of last year, that we
Right.
were just finding out. Through that FOIA request is when we found out the truth, that what we were told in a congressional committee was not true by Mr. Bosenko from NARA.
Okay. So then, but I guess my question is, did that start a chain reaction?
So
Was the FOIA first, and then the FBI and the White House was seeking that documentation for the FBI?
So just to clarify, the FOIA request actually shows us that what the testimony before Congress was not actually true. And so when we kind of go back to 2022, when we kind of look and go, okay, well, what we have here is that we were told that the FBI got involved because NARA asked them to get involved. And what we're finding out through the FOIA request is that the Biden administration was the one that assisted the FBI with being able to search through those documents.
Got it. I get you now. Okay. So thanks for the FOIA. We're talking about this today, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
That
Now
makes
we're able
sense.
to find
Okay.
out the truth.
Okay. So then the White House sent this request to NORA, correct?
Yeah, so they sent the request to NARA to basically assist the FBI in what seemed to be a criminal investigation. Problem being is
Got
that
it.
44 USC does not allow the president of the United States to sort of kind of circumvent the enforcement, the non-enforcement arm of the PRA, because there is no enforcement arm of the PRA. There's nothing in the PRA that says that there is any sort of enforcement activity sanctioned that allows NARA to use any outside law enforcement to seek any sort of criminal investigation or anything else. All right. So
Got it. And this is NARA, right? I thought it was NORA, I don't know why. So
correct.
NARA is the National Archives and Records Administration, just for those that don't know what we're talking about here, and also for the YouTube audience as well. Okay, so then it's interesting because we discussed this last time. Biden himself said that he had no idea this was happening. Remember?
Oh, he absolutely said he had no idea what was happening. As a matter of fact, we know that to be false because the letter from the White House office counsel was the one that actually wrote the letter to Eric. I think his name is Coracan, which is one of Trump's attorneys, letting them know. I'm sorry, not one of Trump's attorneys. I'm sorry. It was to NARA, letting them know that, hey, we're giving the FBI permission to go through these boxes. So unless someone in the office of White House counsel decided to act arbitrarily and use 44 USC and basically use the power of their office to do the bidding of the president outside of his knowledge, which would be a huge issue.
And completely weird to begin with. Yeah.
Completely weird. Yeah.
Yeah, completely odd. By the way, guys, even though we're referencing sources here, this is all intended for entertainment purposes only and pure speculation, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that sort of goes back to our last topic, which was is the DOJ weaponized?
Correct.
Right? Because Biden was saying to the mainstream media, I don't know what's happening. I'm not involved in any of that. But thanks to the FOIA, we found out that the White House did request those documents.
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
Yep. And so, which is really interesting, and I think the thing that actually sort of connects this all together is something called the declassification of Operation Crossfire Hurricane.
What's that one about?
All right. All right. So this is kind of where we go back to this is kind of where we go back a little bit to 2018, right? And so Operation Crossfire Hurricane was basically back in 2021, January 19th, 2021, President Trump had issued a memorandum to the Attorney General, the Director of National Intelligence, and the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, so the CIA, directing them to declassify certain Crossfire Hurricane records for public dissemination. And so portions of the so basically, and you can look at this was the memorandum was issued, and if you type in Operation Crossfire Hurricane, you'll get a memorandum directly from the White House. In the memorandum, the President of the United States asked for, at his request on December 30th of 2020, that the DOJ provided the White House with the binder of materials related to the FBI's investigation, Operation Crossfire Hurricane. And then portions of those documents in that binder have remained classified and do not and have not been released to Congress or the public. And so he requested that the documents be declassified, requested so that the declassification review can be performed, and so that he can make a determine to what extent the materials in the binder would be released in its unclassified form. And so Donald Trump determined that the materials in that binder should be declassified to the maximum extent possible. So in response, and as a part of the process of the declassification review, on the cover letter that he dated for January 17th, the FBI noted its continuing an objection to any further declassification of the materials in the binder, to do so on the basis of a review that included intelligence, community equities, and then sort of identified any passages that they believed to be crucial to keep from the public. And he had determined to accept the redactions proposed for the classification by the FBI, and then he actually asked to declassify all of it. And so the problem being is that we don't know exactly if that was actually done. right? And
Why wouldn't we know though? There's no sort of confirmation or.
right. So to kind of circle back a little bit, so Crossfire Hurricane was the code name for the counterintelligence investigation that was undertaken from the FBI from about July 31st, 2016 to May 17th, 2017. And these are the links between Donald Trump's presidential campaign in Russia and whether or not individuals associated with Trump's campaign were coordinating wittingly or unwittingly with the Russian government to interfere with the 2016 election. And although Trump wasn't personally under investigation until May of 2017, when he fired James Comey, it sort of raised suspicions of obstruction and kind of triggered the Mueller investigation. So this was officially opened up in July of 2016, and uh, um, it was based on information on Trump's campaign, George Papadopoulos, which he had early assertions of Russians having damaging material on Trump's rival candidate, Hillary Clinton. And so, they kind of opened up that whole investigation. Now, they alleged that the Crossfire Hurricane investigation was opened on false pretenses. And then a review done by the DOJ Office of Inspector General Michael Horowitz released in a redacted form in 2019, they found no evidence that the political bias against Trump had tainted the initiation of the investigation. But they did find that the FBI made 17 errors or omissions in a FISA warrant applications in the to surveillance his aide Carter Page. So they also found, I guess, back in 2020 that two of the FISA warrants were declared invalid by the DOJ. And a federal judge had said that the surveillance collected against Page lacked any sort of legal basis. And as a result of that, and some other issues that were raised about the origins of Crossfire Hurricane, Bill Barr had assigned John Durham and the United States. He was a U.S. attorney for Connecticut to lead the investigation into Crossfire Hurricane. So in 2020, a former FBI attorney actually pleaded guilty to making false statements stemming from his alteration of an email connected to one of the FISA warrant applications. Bill Barr also appointed John Durham to be special counsel in evaluating the form of the investigation. And then upon his final report, Durham did not recommend charges against any new individuals or recommended any wholesale charges on how the FBI conducts controversial investigations. However, he did criticize the FBI and DOJ, saying that they failed to uphold the most important mission of strict fidelity in the law in connection with certain events and activities described in the report, and argued that a full investigation should have never been launched and that the odds that the 2019 DOJ inspector and it basically had been in odds with the Inspector General's investigation. So, in other words, what we're looking at is that the declassification of Crossfire Hurricane and any other documents associated with that were to be declassified, which actually. And I'm purely speculating here that it's very well possible that we have found more than just the Steele dossier that we know was a hoax, that we know was basically bullshit. We know that Peter Strzok and other actors within the DOJ and the FBI were acting in a manner outside the scope of what their duties should have been, and he paid a great price for that. And so by my estimation, this would have been right around this same time period that Donald Trump was leaving office, that the FBI was seeking to cover up their own tracks and maybe thought that Donald Trump was in possession of documents against the FBI that they may have found that would have
Could
furthered
cause
everything that
some
he's saying.
form of exposure.
Yeah, it would have exposed the FBI. And so what did the FBI want to do? They wanted to recover any of those documents that may have implicated them in staging basically a coup against the president of the United States. And Crossfire Hurricane, still to this day, unfortunately, the Biden administration Chuck Grassley actually sent out a memo back in 2022 saying that the Biden administration actually continued to conceal the declassified Crossfire Hurricane records. And they were asking for more transparency a year after Donald Trump had ordered disclosure of DOJ activity. This would have been right around the same exact time period that the subpoena, that they were doing a workup of a criminal investigation into Donald Trump.
Username I am your is saying, prove this is true. We said this is intended for entertainment purposes only and pure speculation. We're having an open discussion here. So, don't let your feelings get hurt. Okay, so then, go ahead, Amadi. This happens, right? By the way, have you seen any reports on this for the record?
Any reports as far as what?
As to what you just discussed, what we discussed here right now, in regards to the Crossfire Hurricane, and perhaps the FBI was looking to, cover some tracks there.
I mean, well, so so check this out. So February 15th of 2022, there was a letter sent to Merrick Garland by Senator Chuck Grassley. And the interesting part about this is that the time periods sort of match up, right? They were alleging that copies or single documents, or there's a few documents out of the Crossfire Hurricane documents that were missing. There's also some reports out there that when Trump returned these documents to the FBI, they were in such disarray that they had a hard time with declassifying, which pretty much was a bunch of blanket excuses. But the fact of the matter is that he ordered, while he was still president, for declassification, and that never happened. And the Biden administration is still covering this up. And so and him having the authority to declassify, and it just seems very, very interesting that at the same time period that this was going on, that they're still concealing these documents, even though this was a lawful order given by the president. And now they're questioning whether or not he has the authority, or whether or not he actually declassified documents while he was president. It seems that they're trying to discredit the fact that while covering up the fact that he did ask for these documents to be declassified, and they still haven't been declassified, but yet they're going after him for documents that he said was declassified. It seems the dots connecting, just they don't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and the only thing that does make sense is when they sent this letter to the DOJ, or to the DOJ, and told Attorney General Merrick Garland that they sent a letter back in October of 2021. They wanted receipt of that by January of 2022. This is right around the same time period that the FBI was looking for classified documents, and their concern is that 1 year after to the date that Donald Trump directed the Justice Department to declassify certain Crossfire Hurricane records, that the Department of Justice not only failed to declassify a single page, the DOJ actually failed to identify for Congress records that it knows with certainty to be covered by the declassification directive. So they pretty much are just ignoring Congress at this moment. And this would be at the same time, a year to the date that Donald Trump asked for these things to be declassified. And this involves the FBI themselves. So could this have been some sort of retaliation, or what?
Would this be included in his defense, by the way?
It's very well possible that this could be raised at some point, but
we don't know that, right? But maybe they have that. Yeah.
I would assume so, that if they're going to try to prove that Trump did know the declassification process, what they're going to have to prove is as far as if they're questioning whether or not he declassified them, which is also interesting because he also sent a letter when he sent those 15 boxes back. He sent a letter outlining the DOJ, or telling the DOJ that these documents have been declassified, and the cited Navy versus Egan and some other court cases, basically attesting to the fact that the president does have the power to declassify certain documents, and the FBI largely ignored that as well.
Do you know when is the actual trial for this?
So right now, as far as the Mar-a-Lago case, I don't know that we have an exact date yet, and I could be wrong. about that. It's going to happen sometime this year. There's just so many cases going on. It's kind of hard. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to keep up with all, all the dates and things like that. But we are working out obviously some stuff with the Supreme Court right now, and then there's the D.C. Court of Appeals that we're waiting on a verdict on the presidential immunity portion. So I think we probably won't see any movement on this. I heard from the last time that it won't be until almost the end of this year. So there's so many different delays.
Do you think
Thanks, Moon.
this? Do you think this will be finalized before November, before Election Day?
I don't think any of these are going to be finalized before the election.
But aren't they trying to? Like, meaning the left. I call it the left at this point.
Yeah,
aren't they trying to get it finalized so they can have him indicted on something before Election Day?
I do believe so. I know that we're supposed to see, I think March 4th is one of the court dates, I guess, for the D.C. case. I know that Fannie Willis wants to move her case forward here pretty soon. And I think there's some other movement that we have. So just to really quickly point out, thanks, Moon, for giving me that. I think this was the that also, this was the other thing in the letter that was stated, is that they basically outlines that the president of the United States is not an officer of the United States. In a 5-4 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, so this is called the Free Enterprise Fund versus Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, and it was a 5-4 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that the court ruled that the laws enabling inferior officers of the United States to be insulated from the presidential removal authority with 2 levels of for cause. So the removal violated Article 2 of the United States Constitution. So under the Oxley Act, officers could be removed by only for good cause shown by officers. And although the president can be removed for high-ranking members, he cannot govern or execute the power of the board. So in other words, there was sort of like this dual layer of protection for the president, for presidents of the United States. So basically, they had determined in that case, and I think that's correct. I think I got the right case. They had basically determined that basically officers were appointed by the president, and that the president himself is not an officer of the United States. So, yeah, I think that was the right case. I think
So,
pretty sure.
so at this point, then, do you think he will beat this case?
So
would it be like an easy victory?
So I don't think we want to call it an easy victory, because I mean, unless unless they rule completely in his favor, but I do believe that there could be some things that there may be some motions for on appeal so we could see some of that. Some of these charges might actually go through. He might be found guilty of some of the charges. We'll see that on an appeal. Overall, do I think that he's actually going to see a day in jail? Absolutely not. Do I think he's going to be found guilty of a felony? I don't believe so. I don't think we're going to see that at all. I think maybe they may be knocked down to lower level misdemeanors, but I really am not seeing any sort of action here as far as the felony. Especially
like some crazy, which is some of the liberals would love to see that, like some crazy sentence where he would go to jail for, like, I don't know,
well,
100 years or something like that.
Right. So the thing about it is that this case directly stems from a violation of the PRA. And in the PRA, again, there's no enforcement arm of the PRA, and then there's also no punishment in the PRA. So this is why we have the 18 USC section 783E. And this is of the Espionage Act. So basically they're saying that he committed espionage, and that the willful retainment of said documents. And so what's going to be the capstone of this entire argument is whether or not the United States of America, the U.S. attorneys, can prove that they had jurisdiction. Number one. Number two, whether or not they actually there is an enforcement here of a PRA, which there is none. And
Just
then
for the record, PRA is Presidential Records Act,
Presidential Records
correct?
Act, yes.
Okay.
Right. And then number three is what is the espionage? Because they're going to have to prove ownership of these documents. And if they cannot prove ownership, so in other words, if they cannot prove that these documents belong to the United States, right? They're trying to say, oh, they belong to NARA. Then if that's the case, this turns over into a civil matter because we already know in the Clinton Sox case that only the president of the United States has the authority to make decisions on what he deems to be personal records. So again, if they cannot prove that, it should have been a civil case from the beginning. Why did we need to open up a criminal investigation to willful retainment of documents? If all you wanted was the documents back, you could have hashed this out in a civil court. Makes no sense. It makes absolutely no
Right,
sense.
which leads to what we said, that it's very fishy and sort of there's that smoke there of, some form of weaponization there. It's like it's too, it's not that clear. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be careful with what I say
Right.
here, but
So yeah, so I see these comments saying that he didn't comply. Well, you're going to have to show me in the PRA what the enforcement arm is. You're going to have to show me where they have enforcement authority, and you're going to have to also show me where they actually have the ability to use an outside agency such as the FBI for said enforcement, because everything that I just named is explicitly prohibited by the PRA. So if you're going to go, so the next step would be is, okay, well, let's go to the Espionage Act. But then again, you're going to have to prove that beyond executive privilege, right? You're going to have to be able to prove to me that NARA has the ability to go after him using the Espionage Act. And I'm not seeing where this is espionage. I mean, we've seen in established law what espionage looks like, and this just does not fit. This does not fit the parameters of someone who is committing espionage. Where's the harm being done? Where was the scheme? Where was the willful intent to to retain these documents? And who are these documents supposed to be disseminated to? Because if he's saying that he declassified these documents, right? If he's saying that that these things outside of the Intelligence and Identities Act and the Atomic Energy Act, which are acts of Congress, which we do not see a charge for on the charging document, we don't see any of those. So you're going to have to explain to me how this is espionage, because outside of those two acts of Congress, we do not see a smoking gun here.
the thing is, MOD, that the left has been saying that, and we saw those pictures from the FBI of those documents, I believe, in the bathroom or something like that. And a lot of them said, or some of them said, top secret. So they're saying these were top secret documents. How can this be? So what's your take on that?
Well, and I'm by no means an expert on top secret documents or anything else like that, but from what I did look up, some of the classification markings on some of the dockets, like no foreign, which means that there's no foreign intelligence officer that's able to view these documents, because we do know there are foreign intelligence officers that work with the United States government. So it's in the interest of national security, only said persons of U.S. Citizenship or U.S. Officers can actually view these documents. So anything can be top secret. Trump's bathroom schedule can be top secret. And that could just be for his protection. If they determine, if a classification authority believes that his bathroom schedule should be top secret, and Trump said, hey, my bathroom schedule, all right, I don't have this bathroom schedule anymore, I'm going to declassify this. Well, damn, just because it's labeled top secret does not mean that what people think it means. And then again, if this is not Intelligence and Identities Act, which would be like troop movements, nuclear sites, things that are that would be detrimental to our national security. All right, and we have no idea what the contents of these documents is. We should be able to see something. Well, right now, what they should be doing is going through SEPA, which is the federal rules for viewing classified documents. They have to kind of go through that whole rigmarole with that and what that would actually look like and how they're going to obtain testimony about the contents of these documents without violating national security. And so they could do that through some sort of deposition. They could do that outside of a hearing of a jury. They sort of sequester the not sequester. I'm sorry, kind of put the jury or do some sort of testimony outside of the jury so that they could have this sworn testimony, and then that person can, testify not to the exact contents, but sort of what's in the deposition to sort of protect that. So, but again, if we're not seeing any of those specific. We do not see a charge of a violation of the Atomic Energy Act, which would be nuclear sites, our nuclear capabilities, and things like that. And we're not seeing anything like spies, identification of foreign assets or anything else like that, troop movements. We're not seeing any of those under the Intelligence and Identities Act. So again, where's the espionage? Because if we find out that these documents are pertaining to things that are not actually top secret anymore, like who cares if Trump's bathroom schedule, what his bathroom schedule is? That's not an interest. That doesn't violate any sort of national security standard.
So,
And I'm just kind of making up the whole bathroom schedule, but it
yeah,
very well could be top secret. Yeah.
right. But since some in the comment section are saying, well, he didn't comply. So then let's put the same sort of scenario, or can you even put the same scenario to then Vice President Biden? What's up with that in his garage story?
Okay, so this is this is where we get a little bit of a red herring. We have we know for a fact, according to the NARA briefing, that we have had senators and congressmen, past presidents, vice presidents, and people working for the government that did not return classified documents, and we haven't really seen any sort of they didn't testify, and nor were they asked was there any sort of legal action taken against them. But I think it's safe to say, given the fact that we saw nothing against Joe Biden, which of course he's the president, because we wouldn't indict a sitting president unless they bring him up on, go through the impeachment process as required by the Constitution. We didn't see anything happen to Mike Pence. So someone's going to have to explain to me that if the willful retainment of classified documents, whether or not, no matter what they are, is a charge, then why was it okay for the last 15 to 20 some odd years, maybe even longer, going back to the time when Joe Biden was a senator, that he had classified documents sitting next to his Corvette in a garage with his, unfortunately, his drug addicted son running around with God knows how many people in and out of the home during that time period. No matter, we don't know the number of people that could have been there. We don't know if somebody, snapped a picture of something and shared it with, a friend, and there's pictures floating around on a smartphone anywhere. What if the cleaner came in? You can't tell me that nobody went in that garage for the last 30 years and knew those documents were just sitting there. And if that's the case, I'm kind of wondering, like, well, what was this guy doing? We did see Hunter Biden, though. We saw pictures of him in same red Corvette driving around, after Joe Biden was president in that same Corvette. So how do we know that one day, to score some, whatever, he didn't sell state secrets to over to China or Russia or any of his buddies overseas? Like,
And
how
you're
do we
talking
know?
about Hunter, right?
Hunter Biden,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So these documents were found. Biden's documents. This was after Trump, correct?
Yes. So,
Yeah. And same
yes,
for Pence too. No.
same for Pence. So,
Hello, Mary. Mary's in the comment section.
hey, Mary.
So Pence also was found as well after Trump's raid, correct?
We didn't find out later on. So this would have been right around the same time, like I said, which was very, very interesting because Nara had testified that following year in March that they had started their process of going back to previous administrations asking for classified documents. But what I do suspect, and they said it was January of 2023, which could not be true, because who found these documents? So I think what I believe what happened is that NARA realized that they had screwed up somewhere, and they're like, oh, well, if the FBI is going to be going after Donald Trump for classified documents, and this is not a precedent that was ever set, maybe to avoid, the screw up that we realize that our processes aren't as airtight as they should be, maybe we should go and start contacting these people and saying, hey, could you look for classified documents? And I think probably through that, the FBI were the ones that went and found all of these documents. And I think what the FBI was attempting to doing at that moment in time, it was to kind of clean up the track and to help Joe Biden, help Daddy Joe out and get those documents back for him, because it
Daddy
just
Joe.
seemed yeah, it just seemed
I
like
haven't
all of
heard
a
about that
sudden
one before.
all of a sudden they know where these documents are. So I mean, they claim they didn't know where any of Trump's documents were, but then all of a sudden they know where Joe Biden's are. Like, come on. They had known it, and I think the FBI has been trying to cover their tracks ever since Operation Crossfire Hurricane was supposed to be declassified. And once they read what actually was going on in the FBI's report, and what those they're pretty much internal screw up, and if it would have been publicly made known that anybody within the DNC was involved or implicated in this action, that it would have spelled a disaster for them.
So shouldn't they have done the same thing, like you said, that you think they knew when Biden was a private citizen during Trump's presidency?
Well, so this is the thing, and we know that NARA doesn't have an enforcement arm because they don't know what documents are missing. They testified to that. They have absolutely no clue if someone has classified documents or not out there. So again, uh, that just sort of speaks to the fact that people keep saying, oh, that the NARA asked for them to return classified documents because they knew that they had documents missing. Absolutely freaking not. Nobody knew that any of these said documents were missing. So again, like I said, this is I believe it's just an attempt to cover up their own screw ups.
And then I guess you can say also there's that double standard there as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's very clear to see. Okay, so then you think that worst case scenario, it would be more like a misdemeanor at the end of the day.
Well, I'm taking a bite of chicken. This is what I believe. I believe that, again, the PRA itself does not give any sort of penalty. It doesn't do any of that. It does not allow for outside agencies to get involved. They kind of want to make sure that the president has some sort of, and you can even say maybe presidential immunity. You can even say executive privilege, which is afforded to him by Article 2 of the Constitution. So that executive power that the president has while in office should extend outside of the office as well. It should still go the same way. So um, I believe that any of these cases should have been a civil matter, and it should have been treated as such. And again, NARA wanting to go after Donald Trump, I don't think that it was NARA. I do believe that the FBI wanted to recover anything that they had on him, or I'm sorry, anything that he had on them. And they wanted to make sure that with issuing that said subpoena, that they wanted to be able to get those documents back by any means necessary and conceal those said things, because the public will never know the contents of those documents. And I want to make that perfectly clear here and now for everybody listening. No one here in the public sector is going to know the contents of those documents. We will never know. We will never know unless they become declassified, and 25 years later when we're all dead and gone, and maybe our children will get to see them, but nobody sitting here today alive today is ever going to see the contents of any of those documents unless once a FOIA request, or if they're made public 5 years from now or 5 years after the fact. So once they are recovered, and or once they have been recovered, 5 years they have to do an open FOIA request. But we have absolutely no idea what these documents are. We have no clue, and we'll never get to see them because if they're saying that to the level of what they're saying, then we'll never
Yeah.
get to see the contents. And how are we as the American people actually able to scrutinize this case in a proper way if we have absolutely no clue? And
And
seriously,
same
that's
for the
what
media, right?
exactly.
Yeah, same for the media. So we all fall under the same, we're on the same line, if you will. And so it goes back to this is all pure speculation once again, and only for entertainment purposes. Okay, so then, yeah, you're right. We probably would never know. Maybe for even other generations, might not even know either. Who knows until when? What about the FBI agents, though? Were they even supposed to look into those documents? How does that work at that point?
Well, what we
Because some of them
do,
are supposed to be top secret, right?
yes. So what we do know is we do know that some people within the FBI and NARA do have a security clearance and do possess the certain security clearance to be able to view certain documents. And we know that, sorry, I'm chewing, based on Mr. Bosenko's testimony, that he is actually one of those people that has the classification authority, or I'm sorry, the correct
And just for context, Mr. Posenko is.
he is he was one of the not investigators. He works from NARA. He was one of the heads of the people that actually take the receiving of the documents when they come back from the presidential administration.
Copy.
And he was directly involved with Trump's case. So
Okay.
so so we know with NARA, and I forgot what I was saying. Can you remind me? Because I was
No, so yeah, so the question was, are these or some of these FBI agents? How does that work? Like,
oh, gotcha.
are they supposed to even look at that stuff?
Gotcha,
Do they
gotcha.
have the clearance?
Yeah. All right. So NARA, what's very, very interesting about this is that the FBI, the Trump administration actually offered the FBI to come in and supervise when they were actually going through those documents. NARA declined, I'm sorry, the FBI actually declined the invite from Trump to have the FBI agents there. As a matter of fact, the Miami field office contacted headquarters because they were coming from headquarters. It wasn't the Miami division. It was Washington, D.C. that was pushing this forward. Miami said, hey, this is within our jurisdiction. Just let us go ahead and handle this. That request was denied over 3 times. I'm going to find that just because we like to make sure that we fact check ourselves while I'm talking. And so that request was denied over 3 times. And they actually stated, hey, we're going to go on ahead and let you all supervise while we go through these said documents. And if there had been a worry about whether or not they were able to view said documents, and the reason why they had to get a special master is because of the sensitivity of said documents once they got the subpoena for them and everything else like that. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. 2 billion. Maladroids from sunny climes, land of banana and tarantula. Can you turn it down just a little bit?
Yeah, because I wonder how that works. You know, like if you're investigating such a case and you're one of the agents and you're like, well, are we supposed to open any of these documents? You know, like it just sort of like, how does this investigation work? I mean, we have to open it to investigate, but at the same time, do you have the clearance? Are you going to get in trouble? You know, a lot of questions around this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, at least that's what I would be asking. Like, how does this work exactly? Once again, Trump, it becomes in this category of him, where he's alone. Yet again, first for a lot of things, which makes it even weirder. Every single time, just continues to get weirder and weirder, and it doesn't make sense. Because, like you mentioned, Biden was a private citizen. They had to know this kind of stuff. And he had those documents there in the garage. I mean, that was reported, so we know that's a fact. Same for Pence as well, right? By the way, so how come Pence is not under investigation?
Well, so we have precedents that where they can investigate a president, but we won't bring charges against a president while in office. And so what we're finding is that the FBI had already determined that they're not going to file formal charges against the president of the United States. Now, could they do so afterwards? Sure. Or were they going to continue to investigate? Sure.
No, but I'm saying, didn't Pence also have some documents as well?
Mm-hmm. And they
So
didn't do anything.
why isn't he being charged? He's not in office.
They never said.
They never said. St. Nicholas is saying Pence is still under investigation. Let me see if I can look that up. I'm not sure about that.
The investigation is done too.
Let's see. It says here, per NBC News, this was posted on June 2nd, 2023. The DOJ closes Pence classified documents investigation with no charges. The Justice Department's National Security Division, which looked into the discovery of classified documents at the former vice president's Indiana home, informed his attorney that no charges will be filed. Again, weirder and weirder. Former vice president Mike Pence will not be charged in the discovery of classified documents. At his Indiana home, according to a letter obtained by NBC News. Weirder and weirder, right?
Yeah. So I found it.
I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong, MOD, but shouldn't he also be under the same boat as President Trump if we're going by that notion?
Yeah, if we're talking about a system of equal justice here, obviously we have a two-tier justice system because people like Mike Pence, and I keep seeing in the comments, well, he voluntarily turned them in. Well, that could also be true. He willfully retained them because he knew he had them and did not return them. He was the vice president of the United States. He is supposed to return said documents according to the PRA, but they're applying the PRA to Mike Pence, but not to Donald Trump. And the question is why? Because in that,
I mean, we know obviously we know clearly that, and it's just once again,
yep,
truly obvious that they cannot charge Biden. He is the president right now.
correct.
So they'll be like, okay. It still doesn't answer the question as to why this wasn't looked into when he was a private citizen while Trump was the president, right?
Right, because NARA has no idea that classified documents were missing. NARA testified in that briefing that they do not have any ability, they have no enforcement arm. They have no investigative agency to see, like, hey, is there any classified documents out there? They also testified to finding classified documents from 1923 at a Stanford University library and stuck between library books. Check that.
Wow. Again, guys, this is intended for entertainment purposes only. I keep saying that in pure speculation. You know what I mean.
All right. So
go ahead, MOD.
All right. So this was according to the Judiciary House, and this was the testimony revealed that senior FBI officials expressed concern about the Trump raid. Now, this was released back in June 9th of 2023, where there was a letter sent to Merrick Garland by a committee, Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan. Big ups to Jim Jordan. He's from my state, great state of Ohio. Everything great comes out of Ohio. I always say that. And it was revealed some new information relating to Donald Trump's residence, and the Department of Justice's reported indictment on Trump. Now, this information was obtained from the committee's transcribed interview with Stephen D'Antonio. He's the former assistant director in charge of the FBI's Washington field office. And Mr. D'Antonio described several abnormalities in the raid. So according to Mr. D'Antonio, the abnormalities included the Miami field office did not conduct the search. And he says that he testified that the FBI headquarters made the decision to assign the execution of the search warrant to the Washington field office, despite the location of the search occurring in the territory of the Miami field office. So Mr. D'Antonio stated that he had absolutely no idea why this decision was made and questioned why the Miami field office was not undertaking the lead in this manner. So Mr. D'Antonio stated that the FBI learned a lot of stuff from the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Notably, that the FBI headquarters does not work the investigation. It is supposed to be the field office's working the investigations, which is exactly the way that works. So Mr. D'Antonio indicated that his concern is that the DOJ was not allowing the same principles. In fact, as recently as May of 2023, in response to the report of Special Counsel Durham, the FBI asserted that the investigation should be run out of the field and not from Washington, D.C. So here it is. You have the the assistant director in charge of the FBI's Washington field office confirming that the FBI had learned a lot of stuff from the Crossfire Hurricane and that the FBI headquarters does not work the investigation. It's supposed to field offices working these investigations. So that just points to the fact that they obviously wanted point, because where was the investigation done into Crossfire Hurricane in the investigation into Donald Trump? It was done by the Washington field office. It was done in that exact division. Give me 1 second, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, guys, this is why I love having MOD here, because she breaks it down and we really dig into these topics where it is at times difficult to find in the mainstream media. I mean, these documents, she just pulled them up online, so you can find them online, and she gave you the source and everything. So you are always welcome to double check. It's not like we're just, reading from a script or something. It is completely from a source.
If anyone wants to know the headline of it,
Yeah.
Testimony reveals senior FBI officials expresses concern about Trump raid. And you can find that on the House Judiciary Committee's report. This is the breakdown of the transcript of this person. So again, and I love that when you bring things like this up and the left says, well, you can't trust Jim Jordan because he did this, that, and the third. Well, Jim Jordan just wrote a letter. He didn't tell this guy what to say. This guy came and testified this in a congressional hearing.
By the way, this website where you're pulling this from is at judiciary.house.gov.
Correct. Yep.
Exactly. So there you go.
Yep.
No, because I just want to say that to clarify, make sure there's not any doubt that it's like, oh, where are you getting from that? Where are you getting that from? From Fox News or Breitbart,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever given a Fox News source. Thank you, Chris. But and again, unless you're going to make the claim that the FBI assistant director in charge is now lying, then you would have to admit that the FBI lies. Got it. Second to that, the department did not assign the U.S. Attorney's Office to the matter. So according to Mr. D'Antonio, it was unusual not to have the U.S. Attorney assigned to investigate the investigative matter, right? Because you would want an attorney on something like this, especially to something to this magnitude. So and you want to make sure that the legality, even though the FBI are law enforcement agents in that sense, they're also not lawyers, and they want to make sure that you have all of the legal parts of this. If you want to have the full body of the investigation, you got to have all the moving parts, and the head of that would have been having a U.S. attorney or someone there to sort of oversee the legalities part of it. And it raised concern with a lot of the department officials because this was out of the ordinary. So Mr. D'Antonio indicated that he never got a good answer and was told that the National Security Division would be handling this matter with Jay Bratt, who leads the department's counterintelligence division as the lead prosecutor on the case. So they already had a prosecutor there doing all of this, and they hadn't even issued a subpoena. Well, they had issued a subpoena, but they were already looking to try to charge him with something, right? So Mr. Bratt is the same department lawyer who allegedly inappropriately pressured a lawyer representing an employee of Donald Trump, President Trump. Mr. D'Antonio again noted his concern regarding lessons from the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, that the Department of Justice was not following the principle that the headquarters does not work the investigation. And it's interesting that they keep bringing up the Crossfire Hurricane. So, and I'm almost sort of
That keeps coming up, huh?
Yeah. It's a common theme within this entire thing, and we'll keep seeing that they keep bringing up these FBI agents keep bringing up Crossfire Hurricane, right? So 3, the FBI did not first seek a consent to effectuate the search. So they recounted a meeting between the FBI and department officials, which the department assertively pushed for the FBI to promptly execute the search warrant. So based on upon over 20-year tenure at the FBI, he testified that he believed that the FBI, prior to resorting to a search warrant, should have sought consent to search the premises, which is pretty standard. So if you go, you have to put forth a good faith effort as the law enforcement agency. So you can go and say, hey, can we search? Just like if you get pulled over, right? The police ask you for consent to search your vehicle. If you do not give consent and they have probable cause to search, then they'll obtain, they'll go on ahead and search, right? And if it's outside the probable cause and they want a search warrant, or if they have to get a search warrant, then they go obtain said search warrant. So they may impound the vehicle for a time until they obtain the search warrant, and then they conduct their search.
Yeah, this was sort of like a surprise raid. It looked almost like it was for a movie or something.
Oh, absolutely.
So what he's saying here is that, hey, why didn't you just say, hey, can I just look? Right?
Well, which is interesting because what they don't disclose is that Trump actually did invite them to come and go through the boxes with them and to oversee it.
I heard about that. I didn't look into it. I mean, it's nearly impossible to look into all of these news that come out at once. Tell me about that, please. So, when did he send this invitation to whom, and what happened?
So this would have been to the FBI, and this would have been prior to the subpoena being issued, where they invited them to do that. They declined that invite, and I think that's elsewhere down here on the letter. Actually, I think it's the next point. And they said it was great for all the parties involved. And for what does it say here? Former President Donald Trump in the country. And so he indicated that it was the belief that either you or the director, Christopher Wray, made the decision to seek a search warrant despite opposition from the line working agents in that case. So following the meeting, they described how the Justice Department counterintelligence, George Tokas, who reportedly worked with the Crossfire Hurricane and Clinton email investigations, told him that the FBI agents were ready to execute the warrant. And he pushed back at the department for trying to unilaterally allocate FBI resources. So here's the last part of it. So the FBI refused to wait for Donald Trump's attorney to be present before executing the search warrant. So
let me read that again. Yeah. Number 4, it would be the FBI refused to wait for President Trump's attorney to be present before executing the search. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had to read it again because it's like you can see here what was the intent.
right. And
from the beginning.
right, and it says here that he didn't like the move of that. He disagreed and he believed that the FBI should have worked with the attorney to get consent to search the residence prior to seeking a warrant. And he believes that there would have been a good likelihood that they would have gotten consent. And why is that? Because Trump had already offered to allow for them to oversee the them actually doing this. And so if he was trying to cooperate from the beginning, why would he? And of course, this is confirmed by this attorney. And then you have to forgive me because this is in a set of documents that I cannot that escapes me all of the time. Like every someone sent it to me a while ago, and I've been looking for it, and I'm like, where is it? I believe that it was in either in a letter, in that letter that was written, and there was a series of letters that were written, but for the life of me, I cannot find it. As and someone did send it to me,
No worries, it's okay.
but either way, this sort of confirms that premise because it says right here that they believed that there was a good likelihood that they would have gotten consent to search because they had already offered it the before, and that Trump wasn't trying to. So if all of these things are true, so the whole willful intent and trying to conceal and the cooperate this sort of this information that Trump was not cooperating, this kind of just blows that out of the water completely.
Right, because he was already cooperating,
Correct.
or he was trying to cooperate.
Correct.
And was there a denial, or they just ignored, or
Um.
like, do you
So
know if there's a denial on record? That's what I mean.
Um, so I think what
I mean, we know it was denied, but like, you know what I mean? Like, if it was on record, any type of email or any
yeah, so I
phone
think
call or
that
anything.
emails either emails back and forth, or this is sworn testimony, but either way, there's nothing that was really indicative or indicating that Trump was not trying to cooperate. Why would they sign? Why would they go through said boxes and have all this communication to try to willfully retain these certain documents? And the thing about it is that if he was trying to retain those specific documents, you're gonna have to tell us why he was trying to retain them. Number one. Number two, where's the proof that he wanted those specific documents that says, hey, if you find X, Y, and Z, make sure you take those out. Now, there is people will sit here and say that within the indictment, there is the from the recollection of one of the attorneys that Trump made a motion with his hand, like a plucking motion, to saying, hey, if you see anything, you know, pluck this out. And they're trying to basically assert that due to a previous conversation of attorney, maybe I'm falling under attorney-client privilege or not, that this discussion was about certain documents that Trump wanted them to hide or conceal from the FBI, right? In the same token, you do also have Trump inviting the FBI to come and supervise this. So the plucking motion that he could have said was, hey, when you see the documents on the list, just pluck them out and put them to the side and give them what they need. Now, does that mean they conducted a thorough search? Well, this is the other thing. According to the subpoena, it doesn't say that they had all of the documents. It says that they, to the best of their knowledge, that they had gotten all of that they had gotten all of the documents that they asked for, to the best of their knowledge. And it doesn't say that you conducted a thorough search. It just says that they conducted a diligent search. That doesn't mean that they were going to find everything. And so if the FBI wanted these documents back so bad, the coordination efforts between the FBI and the DOJ and Trump's attorneys, it could have turned out very, very differently if they would have done, if the FBI does not look like that they did much coordination on this, and it looks like they just wanted a subpoena. They wanted him not to be able to comply. They knew that he wasn't going to be able to comply with the subpoena within 45 days. Look how long it took him to return 15 boxes. Okay. And then if there, because there was no coordination efforts, this falls on the backs of the FBI.
So username KJM Twin is saying Trump moved the documents before the FBI showed up. Please stop.
Yeah, so yeah, he did move boxes, and if I'll ask this question, and hopefully this will make sense. If someone asks you that says you're looking at 1,500 boxes in front of you, and there's three of you, right? If someone says, I need you to go through all of these boxes and find me just the documents that have a yellow highlighter on them, right? And you're looking at 15 different boxes, right? In this large space with all these cameras everywhere, right? Would it be normal for someone to say, hey, you take those boxes, I'll take these boxes, and you take those boxes, and we'll go into separate areas because we might need to have room to spread things out? Do you think that that's all possible? That they could have been moving boxes, or maybe there was a leak in a room somewhere. They didn't want the boxes to get damaged, or maybe there was someone coming and they wanted to move them to a bit of a more secure location. Maybe is it all well possible that they weren't trying to conceal documents, especially if they're on tape doing it, but they could have been moving document boxes around, and we have no idea if those same boxes were the ones that were being moved. Do we see any special markings that would indicate the exact same thing? We don't. We just see boxes that look alike that says, oh, they were moving these boxes. Well, how do you know that the boxes being moved were the same boxes that they recovered in the raid? You don't.
It's funny that you say that because the same username KJM Twin said, "This is why Trump supporters are misinformed." What do you think, Emily?
So I would bet you any money that everything that I just said here today, they will not go and research, nor did they even know. This is probably the first time that they've ever heard any of these things. And unfortunately, the sad part about it is that every single time, and I've been debating this for the greater part of the last 2 years, every person on the left that I've ever come up against has neither read any of the indictments, have absolutely no idea how the law works, has absolutely no idea of any of these things, did any sort of diligent research, looked at all of this same information, and then just in the course of me talking, learned so much more information that they didn't even know before. But their hatred for Donald Trump is so strong, and their TDS is so bad that they have that all they could say is that you're just misinformed. But then if I ask you a specific question about any of these things, you can't answer them. So I'm sorry, but I have done extensive research on this. I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I would challenge that anybody who says something like that probably hasn't read one single one of those indictments.
Right. So he's sort of projecting his own self there.
Oh,
PR
absolutely.
conservative said it was only a handful of documents.
A handful of documents at Mar-a-Lago.
I believe that's what he's referring. PR, if you can be more specific. By the way, PR is a good friend of the platform here,
Oh yeah, yeah,
so you're always welcome, PR. Yeah, and look, Emily, you're correct. A lot of times, and even myself, I've had people that join the panel from the left, and they are totally misinformed. They bring up these lines from the mainstream media personalities that they keep repeating certain things, and then you bring up the source, you ask them those questions, and then they just get lost in translation, PR conservative said just a few hundred documents, not boxes as they shown on TV. That's what he was saying, MOD.
yeah. Which is really interesting, which is so interesting because if they recovered all of these documents within a matter of hours, please explain to me how they even knew any of these documents and where these documents would have been, and why did it take days, months, or weeks? How is it that the FBI was able to go in there and recover these documents so quickly? And just confiscate all these documents, and I think they're like, oh, so what they did essentially was they went in there and took every single last box. They had no clue was in any of those boxes, and it wasn't until they took those documents back to their offices and said, "Hey, all right, guys, we got the documents. Oh shit, what do we do?" Because some of us don't have the classification authority to actually read any of these. So what did they have to do? They had to go get a special master. They had to
Is
get somebody
there,
with the
I mean,
classification to do so.
yeah, no, it is really eye opening, and everything you shared and all the sources you pulled up. It's, to me, the main thing that really bothers me is Biden saying, nope, I had no idea. And then via the FOIA, we read that the White House knew and they requested this. So they knew. Now, you can argue, sure, somebody can say, well, that doesn't mean Biden requested it, but seriously, you know,
Right.
like seriously,
Right.
to me, it's like that's I'm sure they probably have they even has anyone, by the way, brought this up at all
I'm sorry.
to anybody on the left, the FOIA?
I mean, I say that again. You kind of broke up a little bit.
No, I'm saying, has anyone brought this up about that FOIA, what it revealed in terms of the White House requesting such documents?
You know what's really interesting about that is that anytime that we bring these up, any one of us, and I see like people in the comment section, oh, you didn't read the indictment. Well, I can guarantee you he read the indictment. Uh, oh, well, that's fake, or oh, that's right wing propaganda. It's always these very vague, overtly vague, and just sort of obtuse responses, and not actually going and saying, you know what, hey, thanks for giving me that information. I'll go look into it and make an educated guess. It's automatically dismissed as propaganda, and that's just the easy way out of actually having to do some diligent homework. So it sort of just kind of speaks to the laziness on the left. And then unfortunately, some people on the right do the same thing. They kind of sort of, ride the coattails and don't actually, look at these things themselves to be to articulate them either. So it kind of goes for both sides, but normally on the left, this is exactly what this automatically dismissive behavior on any of these things that we talk about. I've shown people these for a request every time I go live and I talk about these documents. I'm telling you, go read the 3123 NAR briefing. It is so eye-opening. You're going to get a much different perspective, much more of a perspective that I didn't even know about NARA. I learned so much about NARA in that briefing, and I think what intimidates people a lot is the short attention span in an information age where everything is instantly and readily available to you, and it's much easier for people to pay attention to an article that's only a page long, because somehow people have developed this ADHD where they cannot pay attention for more than a while. I literally, no kidding, Vega, and I can talk a lot. I know I can. I am very talkative, and I like talking.
We like that.
But no
We like that
kidding,
here.
someone will ask me a question. I'll take the 1 minute to answer. In a debate, it's a standard 2 minutes to answer a question, and I'm 30 seconds into answering a question. You're monologuing. So people's attention span is very, very short. And what happens is that you give them a briefing that's 70 something, 80 pages long, and they automatically dismiss it as right-wing propaganda, which pulls them out of the position where they have to be accountable for the information in front of them, and they don't
Or
want to do that.
misinformed, right? They tell you you're misinformed. Yeah, you're pulling up the
Yeah,
sources.
right.
Right.
Just go and read it. Take the time
Yeah.
out. Get your cigar, sit down, eat a Pop Tart, watch a movie, or
Pop tart. Yeah.
have your favorite song playing in the background, and read the damn thing.
Drink the Bud Light.
Right.
PR. I said drink that Bud Light while you're doing the
Right.
research. PR
Yeah.
conservative said they asked to lock the door at Mar-a-Lago, then claimed there was obstruction.
That is a great point that he actually brought up, because Nara actually did visit
Who brought up
Mar-a-Lago
President
at
Trump?
some point. Yeah. So Nara actually did visit Mar-a-Lago at some point between 2021 and 2022. I'm going to say back in 2021, where they knew that the documents were being held at. And again, Nara doesn't have an enforcement arm, so they don't have somebody that can go out and say, "Hey, give me those documents," or else. They can't even use the FBI to do so. So, and somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but this was explained to me by a few people in the military. Now, a skiff is basically a room that has these specialized locks on it. I don't know if it's like a pressurized room to make sure that none of the documents spoil, or they don't, like, the air doesn't get on them. So like if they're in the skiff for some time period, that they don't come like crumbly or decrepit or something like that. But it's a locked room. But the point of the skiff is actually the locking mechanism on there. So if you could replicate that locked mechanism that allows for certain people to enter, and it's sort of replicated in a way that all a skiff is just is that sort of room or that area that is for for classified documents to be stored in a compartment. And the locking mechanism is almost the same as if it's behind two locked doors. So as long as they were in, and NARA does have some stuff out there, some U.S. code that actually backs this up as well. That NARA has off-site offices all across the country. Okay. And so, because they just can't possibly ship everything to one facility, even though they have football fields of documents from administrations and areas from all around the United States. There's field offices everywhere, all over the United States of America. So they have off-site places outside of Washington, D.C., where they're going to have the same thing, and not all of them contain a SCIF. So they have approved sites as long as it's like, 18 by 20 feet or whatever the case may be. And it has to have a specialized lock or behind two separate locked doors with a certain specialized lock. And that's exactly what happened at Trump's facility. They said, hey, in order to make this SCIF worthy, you have to just put an extra lock on this exterior door or whatever the case may be, and you're good to go.
MOD, username Lesby Ballin said she thinks she's smart. And I told her, I invited her, I said, why don't you come up and prove her wrong? You don't mind, do you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm the Lefty Scout Collector. Let's go.
Yeah. So you're welcome to Lesby Ballin. I mean, you can prove MOD wrong. You have the panel. I'll give it to you right here. Username Freedom said, MOD, he said, and they just, meaning the left, as we were just discussing here, when they don't want to do the research and just want to tell you that you're misinformed. So he said, they just refuse to read or simply just can't validate something against their hubris.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've done days and hours of research. I spend a lot of time on lives. I do host lives, but at the same time, if I am hosting, a lot of time I'm muted or working. But in my spare time and in my free time, I do read a lot. So I'm used to being up all hours of the night. So sometimes I'm up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm taking the time out. And listen, guys, it doesn't take that long to read a 78-page document. Like, seriously, you can read it within an hour. It doesn't take that long. It's not like a book where it's like and sometimes it can seem that way, but most books are like 200 to 300 pages. We're talking about a few chapters of a book. You mean to tell me you can't read a few chapters within an hour or two?
I honestly, I don't think they can. Username Lady Dion is saying, can you say the article on Nora? It's not Nora, it's Nara, correct?
Yeah. So are you
She's saying,
speaking of
can you say the article on Nara and the number?
Yeah. So
Because the one
it's
I
called
pulled up here was a testimony, but do you have the Nara one?
the NAR briefing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it's called the three, and I think I sent it to you before in a previous email. It's
Oh, you
called the
did.
3123 NAR briefing. And then who said that? Lady Diane.
Yeah.
This is what I'll do. I'll follow you back and I will send it to you personally. But if you go into your Google search and just type in 3.1.23 NARA briefing, it should come up. It's a House intelligence report, and it should say unclassified. The
I
title of
got
it
it.
is
Yes, that's
unclassified.
correct. She's correct.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is just go on Google and you type 3.1.23 NARA briefing. And the first one that will show up is unclassified, and it's from the intelligence.house.gov website.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I encourage, every time I go live and I talk about this, I tell everybody, please read that. Look at America First Legal. Go to their website. You can search, and you can literally type in NARA in the search box, and it will give you all of their open FOIA requests that they have done as it pertains to the NARA documents, anything new information that they obtain. They put out stuff monthly, and you can go and read all of those things. You can read all of the emails between the FBI and NARA. You can read the letter from the White House Office of Legal Counsel, and you can read where the special access request was requested by the Biden administration. You can read all of that.
Got it. Thank you for that, MOD. MOD, are you available tomorrow
Absolutely.
around the same time?
I think it's Memorial Day.
8:15
I think it's Memorial Day tomorrow,
Eastern.
so I may not. I may take that special day off because my kids will be at home. So I will Wednesday. So far, let me. I'm looking at. Hold on. Let me pull up my calendar. My actually work calendar. I'm on my personal calendar. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure I don't
Yeah,
have
no
anything
worries.
scheduled,
No worries.
which I usually don't. I usually stop working around 6 o'clock. So 6, 7 o'clock, somewhere in between that time. Let's see. Uh, Wednesday. Wednesday is a perfect day for me because I have nothing to do
Awesome.
tomorrow.
That's great. So then
Yeah,
you
so
can you come back tomorrow then?
I absolutely can.
Cool. All right, so let's do it. So what's the next indictment you want to talk about? And
So
we
I
can
think
set it
we
up
want
for
to talk.
tomorrow.
I want to talk about the RICO.
The
I
RICO.
definitely
Okay, and I
want to
know
talk
you
about
sent
the
me an
RICO.
email on that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. There's some
So
good
so
stuff.
let's
I just
do
want to get
that.
another email as well.
I do have someone. Oh, he dropped. So he wanted to join the panel, but let's do the RICO one then tomorrow. And if we have time, we'll do an additional one tomorrow. And then let's see if we can do this series maybe even until Thursday if you're available. But we'll talk about it tomorrow anyway.
Absolutely. Yep.
So yeah, because I'm trying to keep these lives around 2 hours long. I do have to cover other news and create content for for you guys, and it takes time. So I want to leave some room there to be able to create that content and keep you up to date with what's going on, especially with the migration crisis in America. So
For sure.
let's wrap this one up for here tonight. We'll keep things going tomorrow with MOD. She's coming back again as a special guest to go over the RICO indictment, and then we'll break it down the same thing, the same way we did for the classified documents here. Again, by the way, what was the name of this indictment, MOD?
So for the RICO,
No, for the one that we spoke today.
so this would have been for this was for the Mar-Lago indictment for the classified documents.
Got it, Mar-a-Lago. Uh, I'm just trying to find what was the actual. Was it just Mar-a-Lago? What was the actual
Yes.
legal name? Do you know?
It just the I think it's just
Mishandling, right? Is
willful
that what it
mishandling
is?
of classified the mishandling of classified documents. Yes.
There you go. Okay. So this was mishandling of classified documents, and then tomorrow will be the RICO one, and then we'll see what we can add on to that later on, maybe even tomorrow night, or we'll just do it on Thursday. Guys, please make sure to follow me and follow Mother of Dragons. And also go to my YouTube channel. These lives will be posted there. And if you missed any, you can check them out. Please support our pages and subscribe also. MOD, thank you so much for joining. You're always welcome here. I really appreciate your time and
Absolutely.
your input and all the research that you do. I know
Absolutely.
MOD that you're, it's not your field, the stuff that I sent you before, but I do want to send you something that it's in regards to Congress and this budget thing that I was talking to you about the Pentagon. So I'm going to send you another email on that. So if you can do some research and reading on that, because what I saw, it's bothering me, but I want to get your take on it.
Absolutely.
And then we'll just discuss. Maybe we can do an episode on that, because I know it looks like it's conspiracy theory, but at the same time, there's like some weird stuff happening there. A lot of
Absolutely.
secrecy and a lot of money being spent, and it's just like, and then stuff is being denied by Congress or some congressmen. And it's like, what is happening here? Like, it's very funky stuff. And I'm referring to some of these bills in regards to disclosure of what's happening with, this UAP sort of technology and some of these whistleblowers that are coming out. I would love MOD to give me her input on that, because what I've seen is just it just looks very weird to me. But thank you, Modi, for joining once again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Erica, Texas. Didn't she do an amazing job?
Absolutely.
She
Thank you
did an
so much.
amazing
I was
job, right?
watching. She was doing great.
She's the law over here, I'm telling you.
Right.
She kept everyone on point.
Yep. For sure.
The leftists didn't have a chance. The rude ones. Yeah, we don't want to silence, guys. We don't want to silence the opposite. The left. We want to keep them coming here as well, but we want them to be respectful. Erica wants to join. She wants to say something. Go ahead, Erica. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you, guys. I'm just feeling a little under the weather, but I was just about to reiterate what you said. Like, I don't mute opposition as long as you're allowed to disagree. I mean, that's how dialogues are created. But just don't be disrespectful, and you can stay on and disagree. You hate Trump, you love Trump, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and do that. I know some of those comments get annoying, but hey, that's a dialogue. That's what debate is all about. So
Thank you, Erica. And I will echo what Jen in the comment section said. We hope you feel better.
I appreciate that, y'all. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone that joined. Thank you, Jen. And we will see you guys tomorrow, 5:15 to 5:20 p.m. Pacific and 8:15 to 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, MOD?
All right. Excellent.
All right. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.